Hello out there, casual fanatics. Jeremy here, and this is a bit of a casual chat, just something where I can sit and talk about random things with you, be a little introspective about such things, and not going to be with the script, so if I stutter, stammer, slur my words, or just lose my place entirely, you know why. Um, as of late, some bits of self-cognizance about myself has actually brought a certain topic to my life that I want to talk about. So and it actually does kind of follow up on the previous one a little bit because of it being largely about self-cognizance. For those of you who aren't already aware of this or haven't guessed, I am a bisexual cisgender male. I have attraction to more than just the opposite gender, and when they assigned me at birth with male, I eventually grew up to realize, yeah, you know what, they're right. But I was not always able to express myself as being such. In fact, I didn't even know what those words meant at one point in my life, at quite a long point in my life. And the journey to get there has been rather weird, and the journey since then has been just as weird. So I kind of wanted to give my thoughts and my understanding on sexuality and gender, just as whatever my limited understanding of it is, in hopes that for some of you maybe this might be helpful, a little inspirational, and help you figure out what's going on with your own sexuality and gender. I guess I have to start by going through the road to discovery for me here. And I'm actually having to recount this for the third time because my last two recordings actually kind of messed up, so I'm having to go through this again. For me, for the longest time, I grew up in a very fundamentalist church, and I had the understanding that heterosexuality, one man, one woman, having kids, that was the only way to go. In fact, that church was even so crazy about sexuality that they didn't want you dating. If you were dating, you were, oh, what are you doing? You're opening yourself up to evil, the evil of fucking. But especially homosexuality was not that big of a thing. Was not a good thing because homosexuality, that's what got Sodom and Gomorrah firebombed, even though it was actually because the assholes were rapists and tried to take Lot's daughters and then the angels and forced them into fucking. Well, actually, no, they were trying to force themselves on the angels, and Lot's like, hey, I got perfectly good girls here. You want to fuck them? No, we want to rape those guys. But it wasn't until long after I got out of that environment that I finally started to, open myself up and explore such things. And in various different roleplay forums, I actually did decide to, I started role-playing female characters in some cases, and also start exploring same-gender relationships with my male characters. So that did kind of open me up a little bit to try and figuring things out, and ultimately, despite a long period of stupidity, which I'll get into later with it, in regards to gender and sexuality, I did finally realize I was bisexual when I was role-playing with a friend of mine who goes online by the name of Oos, OOS, who was role-playing Will from Pokemon, and her Will and my OC were romantically and sexually linked to each other, and that was about the time that I realized, okay, it's time to be honest with myself. I'm bisexual. And even then, being open with myself, it still took a while before I could be open with other people. And part of what helped that was my fiance at the time, may she rest in peace, was actually very supportive and understanding of it, largely because I know in my heart that she knew that even though I had attraction to people of other genders, she was still number one, and I wasn't going to leave anyone for her, be it male, female, or any other gender. So that helped a lot. And I have gotten to explore my bisexuality a little bit, not like in depth, but I've been in a relationship with a guy before. Didn't get past kissing, unfortunately, but I was in one. And I do know kind of some of the things that I'm into as far as those things go. I'm not going to go into specifics. Some of you don't need to know. But it's yeah, it took a long while for me to get to that point, and even after that point, I'm still finding out things about myself. And really, that's just one of the paths that people can go through in order to figure out, who they are, what kind of people they're attracted to. There are people like me who were actually on the other side of things, who are like, oh, that's evil, and finally realize, oh wait, that's been me the whole time. There are some people who haven't necessarily had that, but it still takes them like years to figure out, oh, I'm a guy and I like dicks. Okay. Or I'm a girl and I don't like dicks. Okay. Or I'm a girl and I wish I had a dick. Okay. So, or I'm a guy and I wish I didn't have a dick. Gross simplification of things. I apologize for that. I'm not doing any of this justice at all. But and I should also be clear as to why I refer to myself as bisexual and not anything else. I do actually, there is actually not a single gender that I am not attracted to, but I consider myself bisexual instead of pansexual, largely because for most people in this world, bisexuality would be easier for them to understand. Not a knock on pansexuality in any way, shape, or form. It's just that for a lot of people, who are still in the mindset of male and female being the only two genders, suddenly throwing a bunch of other genders or the possibility of, well, for lack of a better phrase, no gender at all, or something in between, really just kind of throws them for a loop. So for my case, just for the sake of simplicity, I refer to myself as bisexuality. And as a linguistic precisionist, it does kind of hurt me because it's not exactly what I mean, but it is something that can be understood. And to that end about genders, like I said, there's not a single gender that I would not be attracted to, I don't think. Really about the only kind of people on the LGBTQA spectrum that I would not be able to be in a relationship with would be asexuals. I should know. I've dated one. I made her uncomfortable by being overly affectionate. It's not a knock on asexuality. It is simply me knowing that I cannot give an asexual what they actually need, okay? I cannot give them the kind of hands-off affection because I am a very affectionate person. At least with people that I am romantically tied to. So, yeah, I've also tried to, make sure that I understood my gender, and I've tried to, educate myself over the years as to the likes of things like being transgender and, non-binary, and I've tried to be more sensitive about that. For myself, I have explored gender bending, and if the conditions were right for a gender bending cosplay, I would be totally willing to do that. But for the most part, I'm male, and that's what I was assigned at birth, and that's what I know myself to be now. and I've never felt any different. So, you know, now, even when you know what your sexuality is, though, it can still be kind of weird to get a grip on it because, well, I mentioned earlier some stupidity of mine. For the longest time, well, there was actually a video that I did at one point when I was starting to get into video producing where it was really a cringy video where I complained about how male RPG characters tend to be girlier looking and androgynous, and turns out the joke was on me because I found out that androgyny is one of my major attractors. I was dumb then, and I am somewhat of a smarter human being then. I look back on that time with a great deal amount of shame and a great deal of irony now because of the revelations of my own life. And even, more recently, I figured out that my sexuality kind of floats in waves. I stay on the axis of bisexuality, along the axis, but it's very much like a sine or a cosine wave. It goes woo, woo, woo. And at this point, I'm actually kind of on the rainbow wave, on the more homosexual end of things, where I'm feeling more attracted to, people who would identify as male more than anything else. So, not to say that I'm not attracted to females still. It's just that right now my major targets of flirting are my major target of flirting is a guy, and it's also kind of weird because it seems like whenever I try to flirt, it comes a little more naturally when I'm flirting with other guys than with other girls. For some weird reason with girls, it always gets to a point where I'm like, oh God, oh God, oh God, what do I say? What do I say? What do I say? Do I sound like a creeper? I don't want to be a creeper. I don't want to be a creeper. I don't want to be a douchebag. But with the guys I flirted, it's more like, you're hot, I'm moderately attractive. We both like each other. Let's have some fun with it, And that's how it's worked for me, or at least it's how it's working for me at the moment. I've largely personally grown past the point where I'm still in that old mindset of, well, I gotta settle down and have a family. Partially because, of, me realizing that if I wanted to have kids with a guy, I'd have to adopt anyway. Because, if I were to be with a biological male, or barring some certain circumstances, even with someone who had been transitioned into being male, that probably wouldn't be able to have kids. But I know it's possible for transgender men to have kids. Please don't quote me on that. I just said under most circumstances. But also, just in my personal life, I have nieces and nephews now, and a lot of my nieces and nephews actually kind of act like me, which is scary. So I don't feel the need to have kids anymore because, for lack of a better phrase, my emotional and psychological legacy has already been passed down through my nieces and nephews. Maybe not my physical legacy, but they have been heavily influenced by their uncle, who they love very much, and sometimes they act as much like my kids as they do their sisters, which is crazy. I guess I've just been one of the predominant positive male figures in their life because, that happens. But, like I said, it took me a long part to get to this point. And for anyone who's trying to seek these things out and explore things for themselves, allow me to offer a little bit of advice. Maybe it's not going to be the best advice, but it may help you. Don't try to do it all at once. Don't think you can explore everything about yourself quickly. It may take several years to figure out, if you're attracted to the same gender, or genders other than just like female or male. It's going to take a while to fully figure that out. You don't have to do it all at once. It doesn't come rushing in all at once. It's going to be a process, partially because of not only trying to get other people to understand it, but because of you trying to understand it yourself. Also, don't be afraid to experiment a little bit. You can't find out what works for you and what doesn't if you don't try something. Like I said, I have still firmly in the camp of being firmly male, but I have flirted with crossplay in the past, and I would not be adverse to doing cross-gender cosplay or in the future. Heck, most of the D&D characters I played have been female, so and so don't rush it. Be free, feel free to experiment, and talk with other LGBTQA people, because while we may not all have our own stuff figured out, there's even still a lot of confusion within the community itself. You're going to find people who are going to be very supportive of you and who are going to be willing to help you try and figure out what you are and make you a more intelligent person, not only about yourself, but about the other kinds of sexualities and genders that are out there. I've learned more from people who were transgender, learned more about sexuality and gender from people who were transgender than people who were cis. And because, there is some degree of nuance to these kinds of things. It's not all, it's not all, coming up with, it's not, pulling a pronoun out of your ass. It's a lot of meditation, self-reflection, and education. And you're going to get that by working with other people. And also, when you know what works for you, don't be afraid to stick with it. Don't be afraid. If you get to the point where you know what it is you want, go after it. Because you're gonna get just as heartbroken, with same-gender relationships or with relationships with non-binary people as you are in a heterosexual relationship, just because of people being people. Every person is different, and sexuality and gender doesn't necessarily change the fact that there are people of all different personality types there. So just be cognizant of what it is. Just try and figure out what it is that you want. Don't rush it. Keep in touch with people who are willing to support you. If you want to start a conversation for your own self down in the comments, I will be more than willing to listen to you and try and give you what advice that I can. I'm not like a Casanova or anything as far as relationships go, but I'm willing to listen and give you what minimal wisdom I have. So I hope that my story and my understanding of sexuality and gender helps you come to your own, because there is a lot of degree of subjectivity with some of these things. It's not as black and white as a lot of people make you seem. To paraphrase the 10th Doctor, and I think someone else had created this at some point other than me. I just can't remember for the life of me who. Most people assume that sexuality is a straight line between straight and gay, but it's not. It's a great big ball of wibbly wobbly, sexy, wexy stuff. And it can be confusing, but the more you think about it and the more you're willing to explore it, the more entangled the knot will become for you. Like I said, it took me quite some time to realize I was bisexual, and even longer to realize that I flirt better with guys. So if it takes you a long time to get there, don't worry about it. We're all here for you. And, like I said, if you want to leave a comment down below or send me a message or something on any of my social media outlets, I'll be willing to listen. I'll be able to, and I'll be willing to help you out as best as I'm able to. I'm not the wisest man in the world. God knows I've been a damn fool. But there's one thing I know how to do. It's listen and share what it is I do know. So, until next time, keep it casual, y'all. And above all, know thyself.